This is 6.5a. We're doing long division. Ooh, with polynomials. This will be exciting. So we're taking this value. I think this is like the big number if you're doing long multiplication or long division, excuse me, with numbers. This is the big number. We want to divide it by the smaller thing. How many times does the smaller thing go in the bigger thing? So, whoa, the big polynomial goes inside this thing, whatever you called it back in the day. So we're writing it down carefully. And in this case, if there's a term missing, it's not as big of a deal as it is in synthetic division. Then what we're dividing it by goes out here. So it's all about matching this first term. What do I multiply 4x by to get 4x to the third? Well, that would be x squared. So that's part of my answer. I'm going to put that x squared above the x squared term. Then I'm going to distribute x squared to each of these two terms. X squared times 4x is 4x to the third. X squared times negative 3x, x squared times negative 3 is negative 3x. Now I'm going to be subtracting these two things from the polynomial up above. I'm subtracting that all, and that makes the positive terms actually be negative. So like 4x to the third minus 4x to the third is 0. Think of that as a negative 4x to the third. But then if I had x squared minus a negative x, let me rephrase that. Remember when this was subtracting? If I have x squared and I'm subtracting a negative, it's really the same as adding a positive. So anyway, we're distributing a negative 1 to everything down here. We're making both of these become opposite. This 4x to the third became negative. The negative 3x became positive. And now we just add that together. So 4x to the third plus negative 4x to the third is 0x to the third, which you don't need to write down. But this should become 0. If it doesn't, you made a mistake with whatever you multiplied by up here for your leading term. Down here, for this next term over, that probably isn't going to happen, that it gets eliminated. I made a little math mistake here. Negative 3 times x squared is negative 3x squared. So this is in fact a 3x squared. But again, we're subtracting that, so it's a positive. So then this becomes 4x squared. And then remember with long division, you bring down that next term. And now you ask yourself, 4x times what is 4x squared? The solution there is x. It's a positive x, so I'm going to put plus x. And that goes above the x term. Then I distribute this x, just this x right here, to 4x and to minus 3. And that gives me 4x squared. That's good, because I'm going to subtract those things away. It's going to be 0. And then I take x times negative 3. That's negative 3x. But again, we are subtracting that, so we add the opposite. This becomes a negative. That becomes a positive. And now let's add that together. This becomes 0x squared, which is good. Over here we get 20x. And then we bring down the remaining term. So we ask ourselves, 4x times what is 20x? 4x times 5, positive 5. So I distribute the 5 to the 4x and to the negative 3. 5 times 4x is 20x. 5 times negative 3 is negative 18. Negative 15. Making sure you're paying attention. And then we make these opposite. That goes to a negative, that goes to a positive. So now I'm adding the terms together. This becomes 0. This becomes negative 3. This is my remainder because I have no more terms to bring down. So I have a negative 3. And then underneath that goes what you were dividing by, the 4x minus 3. There we are. This is the solution. And if you were to multiply what you're dividing by with your solution, you would get that. But we're not going to try that. Don't worry about it. Alrighty, let's do number 2. So we have 2n minus 8. How many times does that go into 2n to the third minus 2n squared minus 8n minus 70? Ready, set, go. So I want to know, what do I have to multiply 2n by to get 2n to the third? That would be n squared. So when I distribute n squared to both of these terms, you get 2n to the third minus 8n squared. Make both of these symbols the opposite and then add the like terms together. So this gets eliminated. We get positive 6n squared. Bring down your remaining, or your next term, I should say. And now we ask ourselves, 2n times what is 6n squared? Solution there would be positive 3n. That's part of our solution. So we distribute the 3n to both of these two terms. You get 6n squared and negative 24n. And then we take the opposites of this new polynomial and we add the terms together. The 6n squareds are eliminated. We get positive 16n, and we bring down the next term, which is the last term, which means we're close to the end. We ask ourselves, 2n times what is 16n? It's 8, and we distribute the 8 not just to the 2n, but also to the negative 8. And then we take the opposites of these symbols and we add the like terms together. This is eliminated. We get negative 6. So we have a remainder of negative 6. And we put that over what we were dividing by, 2n minus 8. Beautiful. Now realize actually, folks, in this solution right here that you can divide everything by 2. So the better answer would be negative 3 over n minus 4. It's like distributing a 1/2 to that entire fraction. Let's do it again. It's not so bad, is it? That away. R plus 6 is going into 2r to the third plus 6r squared minus 42r minus 34. How many times? Well, let's start at the start. R times what is 2r to the third? 2r squared will give us 2r to the third, won't it? Distribute the 2r squared also to the 6th. That makes 12r squared. And then we take the opposite of those signs, and we now add this together. These are eliminated. We get negative 6r squared. Bring down the next term, negative 42r. So we ask ourselves, how many times does r go into negative 6r squared? That'd be a negative 6r. Can you hear the dryer down there? So now we distribute the negative 6r times the r. That's negative 6r squared. And then also distribute it to the 6. That's negative 36r. Take the opposites, positive, positive, and add them together. Negative 6r squared plus positive 6r squared is 0. And this gives you negative 6r. Bring down the next term, which is the last term, which means we're almost done. Now, how many would I have to multiply r by to get negative 6r? Negative 6. So distribute the negative 6 to both of these terms. You get negative 6r and negative 36. Take the opposites. And when we add, what do teachers do on snow days? The laundry. Well, I'm not doing it. The dryer's doing it. And the 6r's are eliminated, and here we get a positive 2. Bring that up, that's your remainder, but put it over what you're dividing by. That's a pretty answer. Alrighty. Next one, 10a to the third plus 14a squared minus 40a plus 27. It's getting divided by 2a plus 6. So we ask ourselves, where should I start? Start at the beginning. How many times does 2a go into 10a to the third? 5a squared. Put that above the a squared term, folks, to keep things organized. Distribute the 5a squared to both of these two terms over there, and we get to 10a to the third. And then 5a squared times 6 is 30a squared. Take the opposites of these signs because we are going to be subtracting them, which is the same as adding the opposite. So we add the opposites instead. This gets eliminated. This becomes negative 16a squared. Bring down the next term, which is negative 40a. Stay at the start. How many times does 2a go into negative 16a squared? That'd be a negative 8 ocho. That gives you negative 16a squared when you multiply negative a with 2a. But then also we'll multiply the negative 8a with the 6, which is negative 48a. Take the opposite and add that together. This becomes 0. When we add here, we get 8a. Bring down the next term, which is the last term, which means we are almost done. Self. How many times does 2a go into 8a? That's a positive 4 times. Distribute that 4 to both of the terms, and you get this. And now take the opposite. Eliminated. Positive 3. Take that remainder and put it over what we were dividing by. That was fun. Woo!